Welcome, everybody. Everyone's filing in here virtually. Whoa, what a big room.
Sounds
Hello.
great.
Welcome to a virtual food connection, train the trainer. If you've come to learn how to do a virtual cooking demo, you are in the right place. If you've come from your chemistry 101 lecture, wrong Zoom link. Sorry, we can't help you. We know some food chemistry. Tanya knows a lot more than me, but this is where you should be. My name is Lillian Brislin. I'm the director of the Food Connection. I am here as Tanya's number one. I'm the Captain Riker of this Star Trek Enterprise show. I've had a lot of tea this morning because it's very cold. We're so glad you all could join us. Just letting I am admit all doing the back end management here, getting everybody in. Trying to see if our Community Farm Alliance friend is here yet. Great. This is our virtual train the trainer. You are all our pilot guinea pigs. We have done, Tanya has done some really great professional development, train the trainer things in the past. It's been a little ways. Our first try was with students, which had its own wonderful kind of adventure along with it. And we're so excited to offer this with you all in partnership with Community Farm Alliance and their funders. And if Lori's here, I'd invite her to
I think she just
unmute
joined.
and say hello. Lori, you here? Yes. Has to unmute. We'll see. And so here's our goals. We are all living in this virtual Zoom world for the most part now. And we have a desire. There are a lot of people who are eating at home predominantly, maybe for the first time. As you may or may not know, in 2018, our country passed this amazing threshold for the first time in our history as a people. We consume, pre-COVID, we were consuming more food away from home than at home. And then in March, we came to a sort of screeching halt, and all of a sudden, we are eating most of our food at home. And so there's some great opportunities that come with connecting folks who have a new interest and passion for local, seasonal, fresh products, and a sort of imperative to learn how to deal with it in their own kitchens. At the same time, that economic hardship and sort of uncertainty is causing a lot of folks to need to access different kinds of food programs, be that emergency food, fresh stops, any of the other great programs that you all have available. And so how can we, as people who love to cook and share and eat food and share that joy with each other, do so virtually in a way that makes people feel comfortable and confident in the kitchen so that we can make the most of this time at home in our kitchens with each other and spread the good word. I think I've got everyone in the room now. So without further ado, everyone's saying, people are saying hello in the chat. Great. Whoa, look at all these counties, you all. This is amazing. Okay, if you are familiar with Zoom reactions, if you have been to any sort of food connection programming in the past, maybe our local food summit, maybe a First Friday breakfast, maybe you've watched one of our virtual cooking classes, give me any one of the number of fun emojis. You can give me a little heart, or you could put it in the chat. Oh, yay, a couple folks. Yay. Wonderful. See some favorite familiar names here. Hi, Lori. Oh, Lori, please unmute yourself and say hello. There's our sponsor. It's unexpectedly large number of people in the room today. Hello, Lori.
Hi, good morning. I'm Laurie White with Community Farm Alliance. I love working on projects like this where I'm like, somebody should do something with this, and then I don't have to do any of the actual work. But talking with farmers market leaders early in this season where we were kind of trying to figure out how are we going to deliver the usual nutrition education programs that we usually do, and we can't right now because cooking demonstrations were not allowed at farmers markets this year. I started this conversation with Lillian and Chef Tanya, and we're really pleased to see this come about. And just a word about Community Farm Alliance. We are a statewide organization that supports the needs of small and mid-sized family farms. We work a lot on leadership development and grassroots policy initiatives, and also some consumer-facing things to try to help consumers know how to support local farms by using the food that they produce. So thanks so much for letting me have a word, and glad to be here today.
Thanks so much. And without further ado, I'm about to introduce Tanya. My role here today, we are sort of starting as we mean to go on. So one of our recommendations for if you're going to do a virtual cooking demo, if you have a buddy, it's really nice to have a buddy, either on Zoom or on a Facebook Live, someone to be back of house, watch the chats. If something goes crazy and your Zoom goes out, I can do some off the hand prattle, talk about other ways I like to eat carrots. Not many, carrots are fine, but so I'm here, I'm the buddy system today. And Tanya's going to walk you through the questions. It is challenging for her to see the chats come up as they go. So one of the roles of the buddy is I will watch them. I will ask her questions out loud, or you could probably unmute yourself and jump in. And Tanya, we have an amazing mix. It looks like a ton of extension agents, SnapEd, some Bethany's here, one of our Food Connection alumni. We love her. And
Brandon is here.
Brandon's here, another Food Connection alumni. So a great mix of folks from 4-H. So a big mix. And I will so Tanya runs our culinary programming at the Food Connection. We have a learning kitchen. Normally we love to get together. So she's done a lot of learning how to do in-person demos. And then over the course of COVID, we have translated that to virtual demos. She will talk about what a learning curve that was. And we are really grateful to be able to share just like our tricks of the trade with you all today. Okay, take it away, Tanya.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I see so many people here, and it was so nice to get this kind of response. I'm glad you gathered with us here today, and I hope that we'll be meeting your needs. I did read over the comments of the people who pre-registered and tried to make sure that I covered all of the ground of looking at what you all do in the program, the food programming that you have done or are looking forward to doing. So welcome to all of you. Just a wee bit of housekeeping. Again, as Lily said, just go ahead and you can unmute yourself and ask questions. Feel free to interrupt me. I've not done a demo like this before. I'm a little unmoored because it's not food, or I mean, it's very little to do with actual food preparation. So I'm finding my bearings today. So I just let me know if I'm going in the right direction. If you are looking for CURS credit, you do need to put your first name, last name, and your county in order to claim the CURS credit. We are also recording this video because we had a lot of people who can't participate but who are interested. So we're recording this. We will post this to our YouTube page, definitely, and we're probably going to link. We can send out that link, and we can also put it up on our social media. So those are just a few housekeeping things to get out of the way. Now, managing your expectations. Now, we're doing this tech thing, but I don't want you to think in any way that we are AV or IT or tech experts. What we want to do is just show you what we have learned by experience. And let me tell you, we've had a lot of different experiences. So I want to start on the ground level, and we're going to start with the absolute minimum of what you will need in order to do some kind of either online live stream demo or a virtual cooking class. I will probably focus mostly just on demo, just to simplify language. So if you have questions specific to an online class, please let us know. I think everybody's really familiar with Zoom, so I tried not to cover that kind of thing today. So we're offering pearls of wisdom. And
just as a reminder, today is Tech Day. We'll do a little, you'll see a little bit of food, mostly as a way of demonstrating the tech. Next class is Food Day. So we'll get to the food. So this is the amuse technical boosh before the actual food.
And then as far as like, who are you? We do have that initial information, but what I wanted to reassure you about is that basically we're looking for people who are interested in food and getting the word out about cooking and cooking with local food and cooking with seasonal food, providing that kind of access, which is one of it's just something that thrills me, is providing access to cooking to people who haven't had it before. So this is the audience that we're seeking, and I think we've hit the mark on this. What you should be wanting to do at this point is share your skills with others, try to get other people to cooking, try to get other people to incorporate more local seasonal veg. Doesn't mean you're a professional chef. Doesn't mean, again, like us, we're not AV experts. You don't have to be that kind of AV expert. So that's the kind of audience we were hoping to reach today, so that we can train you to then become ambassadors to go out and do the same thing that we're doing. So with the basics, as I've mentioned, there are two basic kinds of online cooking demonstration. You can do the demo on Facebook Live or Instagram TV or something like that. Or you can do a virtual class just like this. We've done cooking classes like this, and we can talk about that in just a moment. What are the differences in those kinds of things? For live stream, you're probably looking for something that's fairly brief. It's long enough to demonstrate maybe a recipe to 3. We do about 2 to 3 every time we go on live stream. The chef's doing all of it themselves, and some pieces may already be done because you're looking to do this very quickly. You're not showing every single kind of culinary skill. You're just showing people how kind of the path to get the end result of this particular dish. With a virtual class, that's where everyone's cooking along with you. And that's a bit of a learning curve because you are going at the pace of your participants, not at your own pace. And you probably are showing a lot more of those culinary skills, knife cuts and sauteing and things like that. And you need to give them time to do that and react and still watch. So you want to repeat, slow down, probably triple the amount of time it would take. So sometimes these virtual classes can be an hour, hour and a half, up to 2 hours. And you're really considering the skills of your audience when you're thinking about how to frame everything and how to demonstrate it. So what do you need? Okay. I'm looking into my phone right now. So really and truly, all you need is a phone with a camera and a mic in it and some kind of Wi-Fi access. That's the absolute minimum that you need for an online demo. That's the basics, right? But how, once you have that camera phone and you decide, okay, I'm going to do this demo, what do I do? Well, I'm going to start turning on some cameras so that you can get an idea of what we can do. So I'm going to turn on my laptop so I can show you some things with the phone.
If you all go to gallery view, this isn't normally what we would do in a class. We'd have it pinned in some different ways. But if you go up to your view, Tang is going to turn other cameras on and you can find them and double click and maximize them in speaker view, if that makes sense. So if she's going to turn them on, we have 3 times as many people as we anticipated today. So you might have to search a little bit.
All right. So you can still hear me on the camera phone, but so camera phone right here. I have a little tripod like this. If you don't have a tripod, just a couple of hacks. I wanted to show you right here. Yeah, there it is. There's the laptop. And there's one of our best props in the world. It's a stack of cookbooks. And that is what I use to get my laptop up to the appropriate height. You can use that with a phone as well, and kind of lean the phone on there, especially if you've got some kind of stickier edge to your phone case, then you can kind of lean your phone up there. If nothing else, then most of us have these little business card holders on our desk.
Tanya, we're seeing out of your phone. I think you know that.
Yes. I'm leaving the phone on because that's what my audio is attached to.
Got it. Thanks.
So just trying to show you that, I mean, anything and everything that will hold your phone still so that you can get a view. So I'll even turn it around here.
There we go. I think I fixed it.
Okay. So anything and everything that you can do to kind of have a steady camera so you're not having to sit there and hold it during your demo. You do want to watch where you place it, because when you get this beneath view, it's just never very flattering, right? So you want to try and place it so that you can get it overhead. And then so that's a static setup, but it will work for when you're just beginning. These little tripods are available. They're around $15 to $20. They come with sometimes several different attachments, and you can get them from Amazon, or if you have a B&H account already with your department, that might be a way to order that. It's just a little slide. And then a lot of these tripods have different attachments. So you can attach a tablet, you can attach an actual point and shoot camera, you can put those kind of things on. So second, and what's nice about this is that it angles. Now, when you are trying to do a demo, this is really important. If you're, as you can see, if you're talking into your camera, but then you want to show what's going on your cutting board, and that's, try that, there we go. So if you want to show what's going on your cutting board, you can move your phone around. This has an it adjusts and at an angle, so I can come here to the cutting board, and I can demonstrate how to cut an onion while talking and while doing all of that. I can bring it over here and demonstrate how I'm going to saute in the pan once I get that going. You do have to be careful about when you're moving all of these cameras. You want to consider your background. You want to consider backlighting like that. See how it really, the backlighting becomes the focus. So you have to be careful about that. I'll talk about your environment in just one moment. So there's the camera. And as Lily said, we have a laptop here. That's usually if someone is helping me in the kitchen. If I do have a helper and we're here socially distancing and wearing our masks and things like that, then we use the laptop as the backup. First, because it's easier to control everything with that, and also because a lot of our backup platforms, our secondary third-party platforms that we use for multi-camera use require some kind of laptop. You can't do that on a phone or a tablet. So we'll get to those questions in just a minute. So that gives you a 2-camera view. Now the last camera view I have, I'll show you real quick, and it gets in the way, but there are all sorts of different kind of, I don't think that's gonna work. I'm gonna show you with the phone because that's probably what's gonna happen here. So this is our rig. We have been using it for online demos and classes just because it gives us a wonderful overhead view, and I'll turn that on in just a minute, but I wanted to show you the apparatus itself. Again, this is something that we ordered. Now, you don't have to keep ordering all of this kind of equipment. It can start to get expensive. I mean, you could spend upwards of $1,000 if you keep, or thousands of dollars if you keep going. But if you don't want to order a rig like this, and I will say it's great for overhead shots. It's great for recording. I really like the rig for recording when we're doing video recipe videos. But it does get in the way because you have this huge armature. And then if you're trying to use other cameras, that huge thing gets in the way. Plus it takes up a lot of horizontal space. And I'll talk about your prep space in just a minute. I'm just trying to get through equipment right now. So there's a few other options, and we've used those options. This is just, again, another kind of phone holder. What's nice about this is that it connects to a tabletop or countertop. And then you just screw that down and it holds your camera into place. It is bendable, so you can bend it toward yourself, move it over your cutting board, anything like that. So these are the kinds of things that are available for you just to begin. And you can start adding them little by little. Start with your cell phone and then add these other things on. Now, very quickly, and Lily, if you need to kind of change the view here, I wanted to show you the view from the overhead rig here. Are you able to?
Yeah, look at me. I figured out how to do multiple spotlights. I just learned something. Here's the lesson from doing these things. Every time we do a class, we learn some new thing. So I just learned how to put 2 spotlights in a Zoom. I'm assuming you all are seeing, someone say in the chat, are you seeing both of Tanya's cameras when I do this? Yes, nailed it. Okay, here we go.
All right. So this is, and you can probably see why. This is why I love this overhead cam and why I put up with the rigging, because it's just so nice for showing people exactly how you're doing something. Now, you do have to understand that you have this sort of cylinder of a visual space here. So when you're showing people something like, here's how to safely sharpen a knife, you can't do it like you normally would do because they barely see anything. So you might have to learn to angle what you're doing just so that it's nice and visible. So that's the different equipment. Any questions about equipment at this point?
I'm getting questions about how I did the spotlights, and I typed it out in the chat, and we can, if we have time, we can come back to it later. It's Zoom specific, but I think folks are understanding. Any equipment questions for Tanya? We started with a laptop, a stack of books, and her cell phone propped in the business card case. You can do it. The other piece, Tanya, I don't think we touched on is having earphones is pretty key. The audio stuff is maybe, it's always finicky, it's always touchy, but having a set of, ideally, headphones with a microphone built in will prevent echoes. You can do it without, but it gets gnarly audio-wise.
If you're used to being in a pretty big kitchen, if you have a demo kitchen in your office and you're used to using it, you don't hear the fans on your equipment anymore. They're just, they're white noise, but they really show up. Like when I don't have these on, Lily will ask me, do you have the overhead fan on? Because for some reason, the audio on all of this equipment is sensitive enough to pick up all of those fans, and it can really overwhelm when you're trying to speak. So these are really important. Another point on that is we always have trouble with a multi-camera setup with which is the best piece of equipment to connect my earpods to. And that's because if you're putting in and removing cameras, you don't want to take the one out with the earpods because then no one can hear you and you can't hear them. So that's one of the things you have to consider with this additional equipment. The only final equipment thing that I will talk about is lighting. It's not so bad with a demo because everywhere you're going to be probably has fluorescent lighting, maybe some cans. We've got the lighting from the hood over here. That's not too bad. When you start adding rigs and things like that, or if you've got a lot of stuff sitting around, you could be blocking your light. You might get shadows. I think everybody now knows the trick of making sure you're facing light or having a light in front of you, a Instagram light, you might call it. And a lot of the tripods are being built with those in them now. So if you're interested in that, or if you feel like you need more light on that, you can create box lights. If you want to highlight your food a little bit better, if you're getting a lot of shadows on your cutting board, on your food, you just need a flashlight. And basically it's a flashlight, a cardboard box, some aluminum foil, and something for the light to be filtered through. So that could be a white garbage bag, or that could be some parchment paper, but you can kind of build your own box lights with things that you have lying around, or you can purchase box lights. And there are little tiny tabletop versions that a pair of them start at about $35. So lighting is something to consider. I don't think you have to worry about lighting so much unless your space is really, really dark, or unless you're doing food photography. Those are the points at which lighting becomes really important. All right, now demo space. Just a quick word about that. We have this gorgeous space, right? And you think it's basically just point and shoot. And in some ways it is, except for like all of our fluorescent lighting and this beautiful poured granite looking countertop creates a lot of glare. So when I have a camera pointed down on this countertop, I have to be very careful. Like we have cans above this area. You can't see them right now, but you can see right now how the fluorescents are glaring off that tile in the back. You know, that can be distracting. We have cans above my head, and when they point directly down on the countertop, that can be a big white blob, and which is hard to look at in the visual field. So think about your lighting in terms of glare, lighting your own face, lighting the food. The most important part is that people see how you do the demonstration, right? So that's the most important part when you're considering your lighting. Okay, all right, so how do you get going? This one I'm just going to be very brief about, and then we'll talk about the visual field and how you set up for your actual demo. So the things you may want to consider when you're getting started is, one, who are you going to do this for, and how do you get the information to them? So your promo strategy, a little bit of thinking or putting a timeline together for that. A lot of people use their social media anymore. Canva is a great website for designing pieces for social media that very easily, even if you don't have a graphic design background. I don't want to spend too much time on that. I also am not going to spend very much time on recipe selection because we really want to focus on that next week. And maybe if you have questions about that, if you could hold it for then. If we have time, I'll try to get to them, but I really want to stay on the logistics aspect today. The biggest thing that I can say that helps us, and Lily, I can possibly share this, let me see, is doing some kind of storyboard or what's called a show run. I've got to, yeah, share screen. There we go. And I'm going to show you, ours is really simple.
Oh, Tanya, I don't see it just yet. Hold on.
How about now?
Y'all see that now?
Okay. So this is, I have student workers and they typically help me get prepped for all of my demos, all of my classes, all of my video shooting. And so this is just a great document, very quickly to go over. Everybody can look and see at just one glance what we're looking to do in that day. So I have prep, things that they might want to do to get us ready. Last minute washing, chopping, getting things together. The first section is food kits. And I bet there are two people on this workshop right now who are like, yeah, I've seen that plenty of times. Our former students know these very well. So the food kits, what we do is I have them get everything that I'm going to need. Now, depending on, isn't that beautiful? Depending on what kind of demo you're doing or what kind of class you're doing, that will depend on how much prep you do ahead of time. And we can talk about that a little in further detail in just a moment. But so everything that I want for recipe 1 goes in a kit. Everything for recipe 2 goes in a kit. And a kit may just be a roasting pan and everything goes in that. And you know, if you are just doing a demo real quick, then everything will be measured out. Everything will be chopped, washed, pre-cut, all of that kind of stuff. And it's all in one pan so that when you get ready to cook, you have all that together. The next part is all of the equipment. So I've got like these little prep bowls, my knife, a couple of damp towels, the food, 2 different cutting boards. All of this stuff is in a list. Salt, pepper, oil, all of the pans, all of that is in a list. And that gets put out, and hopefully, again, it gets put out by recipe, so that when I'm on that recipe, all I have to do is grab that pile or reach for that pile. And then the last part is an outline of what I want to cover. So these are the points I want to cover. Some days I don't even look at my outline. Some days I do. It just depends on where my brain is, what kind of cameras and where they're going to point. And then I also, we do a lot of still shots before and after the demo, so that we have shots of the fresh, wonderful, beautiful veg. And then we have shots of the finished dish. So I always put the camera shots, the still camera shots in there as well. So we remember to get those before we get going. And I cut up all the veg that I really wanted a picture of. Anybody have questions about the sort of storyboard or shot run list?
We will, as we have Tanya has a PowerPoint deck that you all will have as notes after today. We can give you a copy of this prep list. And I will just mention that this is sort of doing the most. If you're going to do one recipe as a demo, Tanya does multiples often in a demo, and she does the magic of TV and some other pieces. So this is just thinking through everything you need ahead of time. As part of this project with CFA, we will have some pre-prepared recipes. I imagine that this prep kit will also be available with it. So for your first run, you can get a sense of, we've got a recipe ready for you. We've got this prep kit shot list suggested ready for you. So the first time out, if you want to try doing a demo, you can work from these crib sheets and then feel comfortable developing your own moving forward. So we'll have those resources available.
Okay. So registration, that would be the next part. We set, like today, we set ours up in free Google Forms. You may want to use Qualtrics. I know a 4-H uses Qualtrics a lot, but whatever works for you. Partnering organizations, just like CFA is with us today, you want to make sure your partners are available, that you get all the logos from them, that you're doing all of that sharing possible. And then I start with a finished dish. I go, what do I want the finished dish to look like? What do I want them to learn? And then I work backward from there when I create that outline. So start with the finish, start with the result you want, and then work back from there. Okay, so now we're going to look at the visual space, like what people are going to see. One thing that I ask that you remember is that, not everybody has wonderful Wi-Fi access, or maybe their bandwidth, maybe they've got 5 different people trying to work and go to school from home. So consider that when you're thinking about your visual space. Sometimes it might look a little grainy. Again, that's the point I made about making sure that you have good lighting, because if it's dim in your space, it's going to be really hard to see, especially once everything gets all pixelated because of internet issues. I have even had classes where I'm cutting a white onion. Lily, we may want to go to the overhead. So I'm cutting a white onion on a white board, and I had participants tell me I really have trouble seeing that. And when I'm trying to, one of the basics that I love to teach again and again is how to dice up an onion. And so I feel that's a foundational skill. So I really want to make sure they see that. But as you can see, once I get this skin off here, I've got a white onion on a white board. And if someone's screen is a little bit, you all may be able to see this pretty well. But if someone's screen is pixelated a little bit, it's just going to be a light blob on a bigger white blob. So we have these in the kitchen. And I think a lot of your demo kitchens have these because they use the color-coded cut, and these are the flexible ones where you can cut and pour. These are at Kroger if you don't want to go to any kind of kitchen supply. And as you can see, once I put that white onion on that blue board, it's much more visible. Now, can they see the cuts any better? I'm not sure about that, but it certainly helps when you are trying to show something that for someone who's new, dicing an onion can be very complicated. So you want to think about that in your visual field. so they can see those actions a little bit clearer on a dark cutting board. Think about your camera angles. So this is nice. If you don't have that overhead, then what you're going to be doing, right, is leaning the camera and finding a steady, still space so that you can show this, right? This is a really nice view, actually, because it's close and they could see each part. So maybe you want multiple cameras, if that's possible for you. If not, you're going to be moving. And I mean, I've done plenty, especially when I was locked out of my space and doing them from home. I had plenty of time to just use a camera. So you can reposition it. There's nothing wrong with that. Also, considering the visual space, I really do try to make things colorful. If you're thinking about it, what we're trying to do is make veggies appealing, right? Oh, that's a great point about if you have color blindness, that having really high contrasting colors, people with other visual issues, having high contrasting colors really helps them see. So that would be a consideration as well. So when we do our kits, and it's easy when you use lots of beautiful local fresh vegetables, you want to incorporate all of this color. You want people to see these things. So a lot of times I'll keep like something at the edge of my board. Now I don't want to clutter up my board because that makes it hard to see, and it wrecks my focus as a chef. But I love having some color along the edge, and it's this visual reminder of freshness and nutrition, and it makes it visually appealing. And we eat with our eyes first, so I like to do all of that kind of thing. All right, so visual. I'm on the wrong slide here. So visual field again. Consider what we consider, and one of the basics that we do is all of these little prep bowls. And I mean, you can use anything for your prep bowl. It could be plastic cups. It could be little plates. It could be these. So that as you're doing all of your food stuff, you're getting things out of the way. You want this field to be as open and as blank as possible, except for what you're working on at the same time. I have a couple of these damp side towels right here. Damp towels, damp paper towels work just as well. One, I like to show them that it's possible to stabilize your board by putting this down here. So that's always a good trick. And then you don't want to leave your visual field blank for very long. So you don't want to be going and washing stuff off very much. You want to keep the action going down here if you're going to have these kind of cameras. So I always keep, for me, it's easiest when I have a lot of stuff going on to have just a damp cloth, and that way I can wipe off my knife or I can wipe off the cutting board space. Really consider that if you're thinking about maybe using raw beef, raw eggs, and things like that too. So this is why I have two cutting boards up here. So once I'm done with something that might cross-contaminate, I can get rid of that board and start fresh. The other thing that Lily even said one time, she was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. If I cut mushrooms on this, and mushrooms always leave kind of a dark stain on the board, and just flipping it over and starting fresh on the other side. So think about your visual space, how appealing it is in that. Keep it simple and keep it organized, okay? The other part kind of related to that is horizontal real estate. And that is really dependent upon the demo site that you choose. With this rig, with a whole kit full of food, with all of these bowls sitting around, knives, spatulas, all of that kind of thing. Maybe you've got some saute pans going. Maybe you've got a burner under here. You don't have a lot of flat horizontal real estate. When you start cooking, take care of yourself in that regard, so try to organize it, use the minimal amount of kitchen equipment possible. And we'll talk about that next week, but you really don't want to be using a whole lot anyway when you're showing other people how to repeat a recipe, and keep everything really tight. Like a lot of times I don't even make a full amount of a recipe. I'll just make maybe a quarter of it. You just need enough to show people the skills and how the dish kind of comes out. Okay, you need enough like to put in a food processor so that it will actually puree it, but you want to keep your amounts really small. Okay, questions on the visual field? How to set up, any other questions about like setting up these multiple cameras in your visual field?
I think most of those questions are for me and how I did the spotlight. As I mentioned, I will write that out again. I was distracted earlier taking a screenshot of how I added multiple spotlights. You can do it yourself as the host. So if Tanya was hosting her own class, it would take a little more time and attention to the laptop. Totally doable. It's just another thing to manage. So if you can have a buddy, it's great. But I will take some more screenshots and share that with you all. That's specific to Zoom. So this will be different with every platform. When we do, I'll add my own spotlight here. Hi. When we do Facebook Live, we use a free platform called StreamYard. That's really easy to use. We can talk about that separately. And I do the same thing. I'm the buddy, or one of our students has been the host there, and they add people in and out. Even easier to use than Zoom, but you don't get to see who the participants are, but they can live chat. So we can do a separate sidebar on Facebook live streams. And these are probably the two, especially folks affiliated with UK. We have access to Zoom. Many of you have Facebook pages, so we can do a separate Q&A later. Now I'm going to remove my spotlight.
Awesome. As far as electronic setup, once you have all of these cameras going, and as Lily said, if you have multiple cameras, and correct me if I'm wrong, if someone has done this differently, I do believe you do need some kind of third party platform like StreamYard or Twitter or something like that in order to be able to host all of these cameras, or to be able to host a guest camera, someone else who's in another location and bringing them on. I think you need that third party software. I don't think that's through Facebook or, well, with Zoom, I think you can do that. And you can make Zoom a live stream as well. But for electronic setup, and one thing that we do almost every time is we do a little dress rehearsal. So we'll get on to that platform about half an hour before any time we're supposed to go live. And that's one thing we did it today. We want to check the cameras. We want to make sure that the angles are good, that nothing is getting in the way of the visuals. We want to check the mics again, because we've had so many bugs with our mics. And we want to take a look at the angles, make sure everything sounds great, looks great, and that we can switch back and forth. If we're sharing anything from our desktops like slides or websites or anything like that, we want to make sure those can be shared. So we test all of that stuff in the beginning. You also want to make sure, and you might want to put this on your little show run list or your storyboard list, and that is to charge everything. That is one of the things I never really had to worry about when I had a live class, is that making sure everything is charged, making sure I have plenty of fresh batteries, making sure that for all of this equipment, it does function as best as possible, and that your connections are good with your microphone. And what you may want to do, as far as like, until you get used to, if you haven't done a lot of demos, or you haven't done a lot of on-stream demos, time is kind of a weird concept right now, period. But when you have a camera going, it gets even weirder. Like there are times when I think, oh my gosh, that felt like 30 seconds and it's a half-hour demo. And then there are times when I felt like, oh my gosh, this is lasting half a day and it's still just a 30-minute demo. It can get very strange. So you may want to do a rehearsal, maybe get your buddy together and do like a fake live stream for each other, and just to see how it goes. Whenever you can, record and or archive your videos so that you can watch and go back through. I learned something, as Lily said, I learned something every time. It's so uncomfortable to watch yourself, but if you can get yourself over that hump, then you learn a lot. just from watching yourself and saying, oh, next time I want to do X, Y, and Z. Any questions about that part of the electronic setup? Okay, and I want to make sure I get through all of this. Okay, so the final part is basically what you want to accomplish this and the kind of things you want to ask yourself. So what is your main goal for doing this live demo? Who is your audience member? How are you going to need to approach this demo? And then the nitty gritty and the details are the execution of that. So those are the kind of things you want to consider for your setup. Okay, now, do you want to take a little time, Lily, and talk about the third-party platforms just a bit? Or we can kind of wrap things up a little bit and open it up for questions while we have about 15 minutes left. I want to be cognizant of all your time.
Sure. Okay. Tori shared a great platform, OBS, which I'm not familiar with, and I will poke around with. We will share, Tanya has, again, that detailed deck that lists some of the options we work with. Zoom is what a Zoom meeting like this is what we have used for live synchronous classes where Chef Tanya is cooking. And it's actually, we've done them mostly with 4-H kids and families, and people are cooking along at home. This lets everybody see each other. It lets me go to gallery view and spy and what's going on in everyone's kitchens. It's super fun. We can chat and interact. It takes a bit more management to do the multiple camera views. I will do some screen captures of how I add spotlights to have multiple cameras featured on the speaker view. So I know some of you have questions for that. When we do Facebook Live, if you just go live from Facebook, you can do that, but you're only, to my understanding, you're only going to have your one camera view. So if you're, I don't know, you're just working from your phone, that's what you've got, you want to point it at your cutting board and have at it, by all means. If you're looking to have a guest or have multiple camera angles, that's when you use a third-party service provider. We have used StreamYard. I'm not endorsing it. It's just the one we found that was simple. You have to, the host logs in from a desktop to the StreamYard account that has to be linked to the Facebook page. Very easy to do. I am not super tech savvy, as you've seen, and we've managed to figure this out. So you log into StreamYard. It looks like, and maybe Tori can chime in here and tell us if they're comfortable a little bit about that platform. But I log in, I shoot the link to Tanya. She opens it up on whatever devices that she's going to use as cameras. If we have a guest, we've brought in farmers to walk us through their field and talk about what we're going to cook with. That's super fun. You can have other hosts. We send them the link. And then as the host, I'm looking at the StreamYard window. I just click in and out. It's super simple once you try it. And maybe I can record a screen share. That's something I can do. I do have Screencastify from doing virtual lectures. So I can do some little videos of that. And Tori says that OBS will broadcast to Facebook Live, Twitch, and et cetera. We have also linked that StreamYard account to our YouTube channel. And when I say we, I mean the person from AgCom at the college level has helped us do that. So it's okay to phone a friend and ask for some help here. So that's the basic rundown. We can always have office hours for you all. If you're like, can you walk me through that? Set up a meeting with us. Happy to walk through it. Because sometimes it's just like, no, click here, not there. And again, this is sort of like the Cadillac version. You're getting all the bells and whistles if you want to do a Cadillac online food demo. You can set up your phone propped against some books and talk with folks. And I think if I'm just to summarize before we get into maybe a general Q&A is what I've learned from watching Tanya do this, and Tanya could speak on this, is preparation. The more that you think through your plan and you kind of think through the steps, the more times you do it, the more times you'll realize the little bits and pieces you have to have in place. And we have some of those frameworks to share with you all. This, kind of like a worksheet for how to get ready. Have a buddy. give yourselves 30 minutes before you want the demo to start to make sure all your equipment's working the way you want it to work, because there's always demons, there's little gremlins in our tablets and devices and Wi-Fi's and things like that. So give yourself plenty of time. Oh, here's a question from Kathy. Have you run into not being able to do certain things when logged into Zoom on multiple accounts? I've tried and couldn't send people to breakouts and launch polls when I was on multiple devices.
Oh,
I have not.
I don't know if my question makes sense, but
Go ahead.
first of all, the spotlight is super cool, and I've got to figure that out in more detail. I'm excited about that. But I do our bake along club for Kentucky 4-H, and I tried to be on my Zoom account on three devices. And it caused me to not be able to launch polls, and it's probably a setting, but I didn't know if somebody else had run into that. I could not launch polls or put into breakout rooms when I was on 2 different devices.
Someone
That
else
might
may have more expertise. I would guess this is based on not cooking class things, but that's probably a who is the host, which of your devices was then designated as the host. And then you have to go in and redesignate the right host. I would think, but again, not a Zoom expert, just a sociologist. But thank you for that, Kathy.
Lillian, this is Tori. I think you're correct there. It has to be each one of those devices would have to be logged in as a host as well.
Got it. Tori, you look very official and like you can answer all of our technological questions with your nice backdrop and things. So we're going to pitch them all to you.
I'm learning just as much today as most everybody else is, because the spotlight thing, I did not know. So I'm like,
I didn't know it
really
until
cool.
today. Yeah. Lori's recommended StreamYard also. Oh, and Melissa with some kind words. All right, so Corey, can you just give us your experience with OBS? I don't know that platform at all. Any tips, tricks where you've used it?
It's basically a broadcast software. A lot of streaming or vodcasts use it, where you can set up multiple cameras. Most of them are actually wired cameras rather than wireless, but I have not played with the wireless part of it. But basically what you've got is a screen that you're looking at, and all of these multiple cameras are on one half of the screen and your live broadcast is on the other. So you just go over and tap on whatever camera you want, and it switches it to your live broadcast immediately. And you can also set it up as keyboard shortcuts too. So you can actually tap on your keyboard and change your camera view. If you've got multiple people talking and things like that, you can just, bam, do it. But like I said, most of it that I've seen is wired cameras. I haven't played with the wireless part of it yet, so I don't know. And like I mentioned to you in the chat, it doesn't play well with Zoom at all. Because you have to do virtual cameras and virtual camera hookups with Zoom, and it gives you a really, really bad picture quality. But for Facebook Live, for Twitch, for a lot of the other streaming services, it does a pretty good job.
Great. Thanks, Tori. I will say we haven't talked about the wired. I mean, you can't see, I can't show you my camera with my camera, but I have a, what do you call it? Webcam that's on a cable, and I can show you my dog's bed, right? So that's another option that we haven't talked about, that you could plug into your laptop and have a bit more flexibility with that. Tanya doesn't have one.
Yes, and yeah, everything we use in here is on Wi-Fi. Even our point and shoot is not wired in here, just because we move around so much. It's just not practical, but that's a consideration as well. Any other questions right now, Lily?
Nothing I'm seeing in the chat. Feel free to pop them in here.
Got just a few more minutes. I did want to say just to repeat some major pitfalls that we've learned from is, like Lily said, there's always bugs in the equipment. So testing is really great. And sometimes you can test and still have bugs. You have to be a little flexible. I always have a plan B, sort of a ticker tape running in the back of my head of, like if this should happen, what am I going to do? I always have like multiple spatulas, because these little things run away and hide, or you drop them and you don't want to have to stop and go run across the kitchen and get another spatula. So always have those kind of things together. your settings can change. It just like you use your phone for so many different things. Don't forget that you're changing your settings on that probably very frequently. So recheck your settings every time you get ready to do your live demo, and don't worry because you can't think of everything. There are things that are come up, and you just go, well, this has happened. But moving on, just to get to, again, you want that end result. So sometimes you have to just push through. And just to kind of segue into next week, we'll talk about the right recipes to choose. And we have beloved recipes and things like that. But really think about what you can show in this field. I mean, it's kind of like doing a demo outside. You know, you can't do pizza at a demo at a farmer's market, right? You have no oven. So the considerations for this are about the same. You know, we're careful about how much we put stuff in the oven, or we may go ahead and make that up because you're pulling and you're pushing and you've got stuff sitting around everywhere. And that all kind of comes through. The one thing that I didn't talk about, Lily, was prattle. And that might actually be something better for next week, but always having maybe kind of brush up on that veg so you can talk about it. Your buddy can be good about it. You might even, if you're not getting questions from the audience, you might want to go ahead and make some questions. So those would be pitfalls to overcome that we have. And then the joy of doing these kind of things, and Lily has touched on this too, when you have 25 9-year-olds running around their kitchens and making stuff and then holding the bowl up and they're so proud about it, that is worthwhile. And when you see people, the little light goes on in their head that after they've gone through one of your demos, they go, oh, this is something that's for me. I can do this. That is such a huge change. And that is why we want to teach other people how to do this. So any final comments?
We got one question here, and this is sort of maybe, and then I'll tee up this seasonal eating hub because we've got some great examples for you all to think with. Thoughts on using tasty style videos versus trying to do a live demo during a nutrition program. So we have, and then I'll cue you out, Tammy. So we do, as we said, the synchronous classes on Zoom where people cook along at home. We do the live demos on Facebook. And then Tanya has also been working her rear end off with the students, putting together pre-made videos. Those are a whole other level of prep and execution and editing together. And our hope with this seasonal eating hub is to some extent have those available for you. So I'm going to post that link in the chat here. Tanya and her crew have been working by veg because our focus is local seasonal eating, supporting our farmers, our rural economies. Videos, pictures, recipes, quick facts, things people can post. You all can post to your social media accounts or wherever. So that's the seasonal eating hub. But Tanya, take it away. How do you think about the different utility? Like, what does a Zoom class do well versus a live demo and those pieces?
Yes. So a Zoom class is really great when you are really wanting to focus on skills. Now, having said that, Lily and I always love to use the dish as the hook, as the gateway to get people to learning skills. Because if you advertise and say, hey, learn knife cuts, nobody's going to register. But if you say, hey, learn how to make stir fry, you'll get all sorts of registrations, and then you slip in the skills, especially depending on your audience. So Zoom is great for that. Zoom is great for that interaction. I did it this way. Is that right? Demos are great for focusing on the food. So if you're like, oh, we've got kohlrabi right now, let's do 3 recipes so that people know what to do with this alien looking vegetable when they get it in their CSA shares, or when they see it at the farmer's market, or if they get it in a box of stuff, or their neighbor grows it. So here's 3 recipes doing that. Demos are great for that, so that you can just run, go bump, 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 jump through those hoops, provide the recipes on some other platform, either by sharing the file, by putting it on a web page, or by emailing it out. So you might want to, that's the other thing you might want to consider, is how you're sharing those peripheral kind of pieces to the education you're trying to do. That's what that's good for. Video is good for, it's kind of the cross between the two, because you can, with the editing software, you can change your titles, you can intersperse video with slides, with with voiceover. There's so many different things you can do with video, and what's great about it is you have all these opportunities to, it's not on the fly, right? So it's edited and it's scripted, and it's, you can really drill down to specific kinds of topics with video. And with our suite of stuff on the Seasonal Hub, this is for engagement with especially people who might be new to a lot of this local seasonal veg and who haven't cooked a lot before. So we're trying to do real quick, as someone said, tasty style videos where they're about 2 minutes max. They are super edited, they're speeded up, and you just see the basics and then you can go look at the recipe.
Perfect. All right, so Tanya, take us out. We are at time. What should they be prepared for next week? Should they bring anything or be ready to do anything?
All right, well, we are going to talk about the actual demo itself, how to do recipe selection, how to streamline everything for your viewer, how to cut stuff up and show knife skills on the screen, and then how to use this equipment, get in and out of the stove, on and off of the range, and present a final product.
Perfect. You will get an email from us. We'll get our act together. And by we, I mean, I will do the things that I told you all I'm going to do. Thank you all. I am in awe of participation today for our first ever pilot. If you have thoughts, tips, questions, if you want to set up some office hours, reach out to us. You have Tanya's email. I will put mine in the chat. You can check out the Seasonal Eating Hub. Thank you to our collaborators at CFA and their funders. Oh, I've been saying such nice things in the chat, Tanya. And we will see you all next week, I think.
All right.
Is it next week?
Thank you all very much. Yes, next Tuesday, same time. Same day,
time.
same time.
Next week. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.